Hi everyone, this is Wendy Myers. I'm a health and nutrition coach, and I want to tell you a little bit about why nutrition is so confusing. When I first started studying nutrition, I read all kinds of books, and I would get all excited about a book that I would read, and then I would read something completely different. And then I would read a study that totally proved that meat was bad for you and causes cancer, and then read another book that says that no, meat's good for you. You need meat to be healthy. So I thought, what is going on? Why do I keep reading all these totally confusing statistics and completely polar opposite things that are totally proven in studies? So I want to shed a little bit of light on that so to help you navigate this confusing world of nutrition. One of the first things to realize is that we're all totally different. Many people dramatically improve their health with all different kinds of diets. I think the majority of people will probably do best on a paleo type diet, since our bodies are evolutionarily designed to eat meat because that's what we ate for millions of years, and to not eat grains and not really eat dairy if at all, and to definitely not eat sugar and high sugar fruits. I think it's definitely a diet that works for most people's physiology. But I think there's people that can be vegan and be perfectly healthy. There's some people, no matter what diet they have, even if it's not a healthy diet, just nothing's going to kill them. Those people that just abuse themselves, or they smoke, or they drink, or they have a bad diet. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to kill them. Then there are those people that can eat 6 meals a day and feel great. Some eat 1 meal a day, and some they just can eat all day long. There's these people are universally despised, I believe, and so everyone's totally different. We have different metabolisms. We have different ethnic backgrounds. We live in different climates. We have different levels of exercise. We're so diverse. So you can't just say, oh, this diet works and this is the only diet to do. And that's just not common sense. Just everyone's different, and you have to find the diet that works for you and is sustainable for you. Um, Another thing you want to think about is that books are very convincing. When an author writes a book, they are writing it, they've done tons of research, and the whole point of them writing it is to convince you of their point of view. For instance, after I read like the China study that says that meat and dairy cause cancer, I completely changed my life and stopped eating meat for 2 years. Unfortunately, I developed some health problems doing that, so I had to stop. And but then after I read The pH Miracle, I started drinking alkaline water and eating more salads and things like that. Then after I read The Atkins Diet, I thought, oh my God, I started eating pepperoni sticks and doing no carbs and eating these horrifying low carb bars because that's what the book told me to do. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way in nutrition and falling prey to some books and diets that really aren't healthy. So you have to be very careful when reading books and not fall prey to, for instance, an author that's hawking a diet because it worked really well for him to cure his IBS, or it works fantastic for his health. And also be very careful about when you read a book that that's like, maybe some of them are promoting a supplement. That's like the whole purpose of the book. So you just have to be careful when you're reading and read everything. Just be very just be very pessimistic when you're reading books, and second guess them. Another reason people have problems with, like, they're confused about nutrition is because they get nutrition advice from their doctor. It's really scary that these doctors that are responsible for looking out for our health, most of them have no training in nutrition whatsoever. A quarter of medical schools do not have any courses on nutrition to even offer. So some doctors have had some nutrition courses as electives in medical school. However, a lot of doctors have wrong information. I've had so many clients come to me and tell me their doctor told them to eat margarine simply because they have high cholesterol. So while doctors are well-meaning, you want to make sure that you're to look at your doctor as a health consultant, as one of the consultants that you use in your health, and definitely question the advice that he gives you when it comes to nutrition and even taking medication. I always do, and I typically find that the advice the physician has given me is actually wrong and not to follow it. Another reason nutrition is so confusing is because of the media. news outlets are they're desperate for information to report, and really their motivation stems more from not trying to inform you, but to try to get ratings. So they also are paid by, they have lots of advertisers, and so they get a lot of money from these advertisers, and they're not going to report stories that negatively reflect their advertisers or the products that they are selling. So that's why you really don't hear that much negative things about pharmaceutical drugs, and things like of that nature. And that's why you also hear a lot of positive stuff about foods that are not healthy. For instance, soy. You hear a lot of stuff about soy because a lot of these really wealthy big agri companies, food manufacturers and growers and pharmaceutical companies have a huge budget every year for public relations, and they do their own studies, so that you end up hearing all these fabulous studies being reported, but they're actually just actually funded by the company that's going to benefit from this news getting out into the media. So be very careful, be very skeptical of anything that you hear in the media. Another reason nutrition is so confusing is because of bad science. Nutrition is one of the only sciences in the world where you can totally prove one theory, like that eating meat's bad for you, and totally prove another theory that eating meat's really good for you. And so what is the deal with that? It's basically because food science doesn't have to have the rigorous controls as, say, nuclear physics. So because of that, food science is just, fortunately, there's just a lot of bad science out there. There's a lot of bad scientists doing the research, and the results can easily be wrong. For instance, Gary Tobes, he's a journalist that's been studying research methods for a long time. He's spent 10 years studying bad science and bad research and reporting on it. And of course, he naturally gravitated towards food science because food science has some of the worst the worst like research results being, the worst research being done. So he basically turned his focus to that and has a fantastic book, fantastically well researched, called Why We Get Fat, which is basically dispelling the myth of the calories in, calories out theory. It's more about when you eat carbohydrates, carbohydrates make you fat. It's pretty simple. Carbohydrates have a hormonal effect on your body, and you gain weight when your blood sugar levels and the hormone insulin is released, and you gain weight from that. So there's also a lot of problems with research methods. One of the research methods that's typically done in food science is epidemiological research. And epidemiological research has a lot of problems just because of the way it's done. And really any research, the results can be totally skewed. The research can be a really poorly designed study. The scientists doing it can be really lax in their controls, and they can even falsification of results is rife in the community. So even if a study is really well designed, the end results and the results can be totally falsified. And I won't go into all of the different research methods. You can read them in the blog, but all the different research methods all have their flaws and weaknesses and can't 100% be relied upon. Another problem is animal studies. We get a lot of food science being done on animals, and then the results are reported like they could be extrapolated to the general population of humans. But animals have a totally different physiology, anatomy, and metabolism than human beings, and so the results from animal studies cannot necessarily and usually cannot be generalized to the human population. So be very careful when you're reading studies in regards to that, and don't think they apply to you. Also, a lot of food studies are very short term. They're done for a couple weeks. Very rarely are they done for longer than a year because it costs millions of dollars and requires thousands of people's participation. And so I'm just pretty much in awe of some of these really longer studies that are 10, 20, 30 years long. However, the majority of studies that you hear about are short-term studies, and so the results of those, while they sound very compelling, they can't be necessarily applied to your health in the long term because there's many different health effects. Like when people eat a lot of meat, their cholesterol goes up in the short term, but over the long term, their cholesterol is not necessarily affected by dietary cholesterol intake. And because, namely because the liver produces 80% of your cholesterol that's running around in your veins. So short-term studies definitely are problematic, so you have to be careful when you're reading studies that are only done for a few weeks. Again, but sometimes that's all that's feasible, that's all they can do. But don't extrapolate those to you and think that they absolutely apply to you. Another problem is the sample size, the number of subjects that are in a study. You have to have a study with more than 20 people in it or 20 animals for that study to be statistically relevant and for those results to be applicable to the population in general. And so what this means is, so when you hear a study about like 8 people, just forget it because it doesn't mean anything. It's not statistically relevant. And if you have a study that you're looking at that has hundreds of people or thousands, that's going to be much more applicable to you. Another problem with why nutrition is so confusing is that a lot of research is outright bought and paid for by Monsanto and by a lot of big agricultural food producers. They have millions of dollars to spend and on a regular basis give money to wings of universities and really pay for the majority of research that is done at universities. So just because you hear about a university study doesn't mean it was done independently. It was usually funded by these big companies, and the heads of the research are in the back pocket of these huge companies, and it's just very, very corrupt. So unfortunately, you just it's almost I've almost kind of given up when I read a research study and thinking that it's non-biased. It's very hard to find research these days that is totally unbiased and is just really scientists trying to do honest research to get unbiased results. So that's a huge, huge problem, not to mention just the falsification. There's really no consequence for some of these scientists to outright falsify the results to satisfy the funder, to benefit the funder and get him the results that they want. Because if sometimes if the results aren't what the funder wants, that scientist doesn't get money the next year to continue his research. That wing doesn't get money to expand on a university. And so there's really this huge upside for people doing food science to lie and falsify results. So unfortunately, this is the environment today in research, in food nutrition research. And it's unfortunate because it leaves us as consumers very, very confused. So just try to be very careful when you're reading stuff. So my advice is just to take in everything with a beginner's mind and try not to get really super set on a diet, like super set on the paleo or just totally entrenched in the vegan diet, because it's all about balance. You need to have balance in your life, and you need to be sure that the diet you're eating is working for you. And I beg you not to ignore your body's cries for help. I hear of so many people, including myself when I was doing the vegetarian and then the vegan diet, where I was just having all kinds of health problems. And I wanted to be a vegetarian and vegan so badly, and I loved and felt good about not hurting animals, and I really loved the fact that I was helping the environment one meal at a time. But in reality, my body was not getting the nutrition it needed, and I needed to change my diet. Unfortunately, some people, just their mind overrides their body, and if they continue in that state for too long, which many people do, they stay on a diet that doesn't work for them for 10 years and even 20 years, and get very, very sick. And they're looking everywhere except at their diet for the cause of their health problems. So if your body is in pain, if you have headaches and you don't have energy and you don't feel mentally well, you need to look at your diet first and foremost. because people that are eating a diet that works for them, they have energy, they're happy, they're glowing, they have glowing eyes and skin, they have healthy hair, they feel good about themselves and they're happy, and they also they feel good physically. They don't have a lot of aches and pains, and they don't and they also, when they get medical tests, they make straight A's on their medical tests. They don't have nutrient deficiencies, and they don't have high cholesterol. They don't have adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues and many of the other common problems that are happening in society today. They don't have diabetes or heart problems. So the proof is in the pudding. If you feel good, if you feel energetic, if you're getting good results on your medical tests, you're eating a diet that works for you. If this is not happening for you, you need to change your diet. It's just that simple. And additionally, if you want to try out a diet, if you want to try out the paleo diet, or you want to try out a vegetarian diet or the vegan diet, try it out. I did. I've been doing all kinds of diets the past few years. I did the vegetarian, the vegan. I did a raw food diet. That didn't last too long. I did. Now I'm doing the paleo diet, and it really works for me a lot. And I'm getting really good results on my medical tests as well. So it's working for me. So I advise you to do the same. Get a baseline, do your medical tests right now, test your cholesterol, your blood sugar, do a Nutri-Eval where you're testing all of your fat profiles, and you're testing all your vitamin levels, do a hair mineral analysis and make sure you have all your mineral levels correct, and just check everything out, and then do the diet you want to try out, and in 6 months redo the testing and see where you're at. If you've got vitamin D deficiencies, B12, iron, and any other kind of health problems, guess what? The diet's probably not working too good. But if you can't afford testing, and I definitely recommend the Metametrics testing. Any kind of testing from them is fantastic. You can find them on metametrics.com. But if you can't afford testing, then just like I said before, just go by how your body is feeling, how you're feeling mentally and physically. And that will let you know if your diet is sustainable for you and if you're getting your nutritional needs met. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.